Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka Savagetechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Welcome to another episode of the Geek Homeworld. I'm your host, Ed, aka Savagetechman. Thank you, everyone who's been listening. I know we've been away for just a little bit, but I've been kind of busy with life and everything else in between. And I just literally got out of watching the movie Deadpool 2. Now, it came out last weekend, so at the recording of this will be the second weekend. And after about 3 weeks at number one, it dethroned Infinity War, which was spectacular. And we did our review on that already. I don't know if I did a spoiler one on that, but Infinity War is incredible. Josh Brolin just about steals the movie playing Thanos. And the connection to Deadpool is obviously that he's playing one of my favorite comic book characters from X-Men, Cable. Now, Cable is the son of Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers. She was a clone of Jean Grey, done by Mr. Sinister. And so, as I go on and talk about Deadpool 2 in this episode, definitely spoilers if you've not checked out the Cable comics, the X-Men comics from the 90s. Well, you're a little far behind, but I know there's new people coming to it all the time, to the comics, and there's different iterations of the characters in the comics and versus what they're trying to do in the Marvel universe, as it were. And I was a little worried when I saw that Josh Brolin was taking on the role of Thanos and taking on the role of Cable. Now, I was just concerned, but it's good to know that I can tell you that Josh Brolin did justice to the character. No pun intended, since they poke fun at DC in Deadpool 2. But all in all, I really enjoyed the film. I thought that it was really good and a lot of fun. I had a great time, actually. It was very funny. I haven't laughed that much in a movie in a while. And was it better than the original? I don't know necessarily that it was better than the original, but I know that it was a good movie, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Scott went along with me. We caught the movie, and, we missed the opening weekend of it, so that's fine. Life gets in the way. Sometimes you don't get to do everything you want to do when you want to do it and how you want to do it, so that's just life. But for the movie, seeing it, it wasn't a big crowd. We went to a later show, so got the theater mostly to ourselves to totally enjoy it. And there were actually a lot of people there, but it was really fun. There was just so much laughter in the film, in the screening that we went to of Deadpool 2. And I say you should take it as it is for a movie and as a sequel. And you do kind of have to know a little bit about Deadpool. You have to kind of see the first one, but if you don't, you're not going to be too lost. If you don't know the character of Cable, that doesn't bother you. They don't really get into his origin story per se. They get a little bit into it. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a spoiler-filled episode. So if you haven't seen Deadpool 2, come back later and listen to this episode. But I will certainly tell you I did enjoy it. So it is jokingly a family movie. It's not really a family movie. It's a strong R rating, and it deserves it for the violence and language and other things. But you have to take the movie for what it's meant to be. And Deadpool as a character in the comics was that way. It's very raunchy in a lot of ways. Some ways unnecessary, but some ways so funny. And breaking that fourth wall, Ryan Reynolds has found his final role, I think, or one of his best roles, where he transcends the characters he's played. I mean, he starts making fun of the Logan movie, and he's like, I can't believe that Wolverine died first. Well, I'm going to do it now. And then he goes back and forth and telling his story. And there are surprisingly some very touchy moments. And of course, they're sprinkled with a lot of humor here and there. But generally speaking, there are some really good moments in there. And yeah, there's some cheesy songs. I'm a sucker for cheesy songs, 80s and songs and different things like that. But there was a lot of different things. Dubstep. Everybody's going to be Googling dubstep. What is that? That's a big part of the movie there. And very funny, very, very enjoyable. So Deadpool 2 continues what we saw in the first Deadpool movie. And Ryan Reynolds, he even pokes fun at his role as Ryan Reynolds and some of the ending credits, which is hilarious. And he's like, you finally made it. And then he's looking at the Green Lantern script, and he basically shoots a bullet through his head, and he's, boom, out and for the good. And then they even, one of the best scenes in the credits there is you see from Wolverine Origins and Hugh Jackman. He's not actually in this. They're just showing that scene from the movie. And then they have the Deadpool incarnation, or Weapon 11, as they called it in Wolverine Origins. And the weakest probably of all the Wolverine movies. But anyhow, what was funny was then Deadpool shows up and he ends up shooting him several times over and over and over again. His Deadpool character in that movie, because they did Deadpool completely wrong in that movie. And so it was funny that Ryan Reynolds is not afraid to make fun of some of the not so good moments on screen that he is portrayed. And being Deadpool, he can break that fourth wall, and he can give you that different kind of perspective, as it were, on things like that. So the character of Deadpool allows him that artistic freedom to do that. Now, like I said, or I was thinking before, I've said it on podcast, I was dreading Deadpool 2. I was excited at the end of the first Deadpool when they said Cable would be in the sequel, and I'm glad they were able to pull it off. I know they had some problems with the direction the film was going, but I think the final product of Deadpool 2 turned out really well. Do I think it's better than the first one? I don't know. It's kind of complimentary to the first Deadpool, but I enjoyed the first Deadpool. I thought it was very irreverent. I don't know that this had that shock value, but for me, it did have the character of Cable portrayed brilliantly by Josh Brolin. They did the character justice. I was afraid that this would be almost slapsticky, and it was to an extent, but they really did a good job of keeping Cable's character, the character of Cable, keeping him very serious. And, he had the techno-organic virus that Cable has, and so he had that super strong arm, and I liked how his weapons would kind of come to him a little bit, kind of Iron Man-ish, if you think about it. And he had a little force field thing going up there, and of course he time jumped and all that, and so that was very good on that, how they did that. The visual effects did very well. Of course, spoilers, they end up coming across the Juggernaut, who looks very CGI and very abnormally large individual in the movie, and they're trying to save this kid in the movie. Fire Fist, I think, is his name, which is crazy. But Deadpool ends up redeeming the kid and all that. And, of course, they do a little Thanos time jump thing, which I think they'll probably do in Avengers 4, Avengers 4, or whatever the next Infinity War movie will be, whatever it's going to be titled next year. But what we see is they do a little Doctor Doom, not Doctor Doom. Oh, that would be interesting, Doctor Doom. And now they do a little Doctor Strange, not the Time Stones or anything like that. They don't really reference anything there. about Infinity War, but Cable sacrifices his time jump apparatus that he has or whatever. He has one to jump back in time and one to return to his time because he's trying to save his wife and kids from this kid Fire Fist or whatever his name is, and who's in the future just turns bad and and just kills everybody and wipes out a lot of people, especially Cable's family. So Cable's obviously trying to save his family and he's trying to save his future. And so, I mean, the storyline works. I think they did well on that. I can't disagree with how that went down. And I think that it was well thought out. I liked the technological advances that he had, the guns, just the badassery that Cable displayed there in the movie. Josh Brolin does a wonderful job of that. He really is Cable for me now, so I don't think you can go wrong. If there's going to be a Deadpool 3, obviously, or an X-Force movie, I would love to see it. I don't know, I'd kind of want it to be a little bit more serious than Deadpool, but that's fine. They can have Deadpool cracking jokes, but I would like to see just a straight up X-Force movie, and I would like to see them bring in Strife, which, if you know your comics, Strife was pretty much a clone of Cable. I would love to see some other things when we see Dark Phoenix, if they tie any of that in. Obviously, they poke fun at Ryan Reynolds' character. Deadpool pokes fun at the fact that they don't have any major X-Men in the movie, and then you do actually see, spoiler, the X-Men, I call them the first class, those mutants, the ones that'll be in Dark Phoenix that were in Apocalypse and all that. And, I would love to see, and I guess Apocalypse is gone at this point, but I would love to see Cable go toe-to-toe on the big screen with Apocalypse, kind of like he did in the comics, like he did in still the best part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe concerning X-Men was the X-Men cartoon from what they call Fox Kids back in the 90s, X-Men, and it's available online. You can check it out. There were about 6 seasons of that in like the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, I think. And very good storylines, very much straight out of the comics. The look, the feel of the X-Men, I think that's still something that the live-action movies have to live up to, and they haven't always done a great job of that. I know they've tried to fix things, and it's hard when you're playing with all those decades of timelines and you're trying to bring it all together and make it cohesive to tell a story or an arc of stories. So it's difficult, but Cable is an interesting character, and he's not a bad guy. He's you kind of think he's a bad guy because he's coming back, but you find out he's a good guy because he's traveling back through time to save his family, save the future. And, they make Terminator reference jokes there. He's like, pump the brakes there, Thanos. I love that. And so it wasn't too hokey, but it was very funny. I can't say enough about Deadpool 2. It's definitely a movie you ought to go check out. Is it right for your kids? No. If they can't handle blood and guts and heads being chopped off for no reason sometimes, and gore and stuff like that, then yeah, the younger kids should not go and see it. It is an R-rated movie, and it earns that R rating, and it needs that R rating, and it has it. So it's a good movie, Deadpool 2. Like I said, do I think it's better than the first one? I can't say that I think it is, but I did enjoy it. It was much better. I guess I kind of went in with lower expectations there, and I wasn't let down by it. I was excited by it. So, final rule on Deadpool 2, should you go check it out? Oh, definitely. Go see it. I got to see it on Movie Pass, so I cannot see any more Deadpool 2 movies, but I got to see it for free, so, just not doing a commercial here for Movie Pass, but I've got that, and it's working out. I know they've changed things. You've changed things. But Deadpool 2, I got to see it for free. So, just paying my $10 a month for Movie Pass. So I enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on Deadpool 2 and anything else here at the podcast. You can hit us up at Geek Homeworld. Check out our YouTube channel, our fledgling YouTube channel that's in development and hopefully is going to become something more. I'm still working on it, working on a lot of different angles there, a lot of different things. We've got some exciting things coming up to the podcast and things I'm going to be talking about. There's another podcast that I'll be launching very soon. I'm a little behind schedule on where I wanted to be with that, but it's going to be a totally different subject than what we're talking about here. But we may have some, what I call cross-pollination. We may have the host of that podcast come on here possibly. I don't know. I hadn't figured that out yet, but it's an exciting podcast coming very soon, and we'll drop a few hints about it here on Geek Homeworld. We're approaching, on the podcast here, we're approaching 100 episodes, and officially, I think September 9th of 2018 would be our official 4-year anniversary of this podcast, and would be actually 10 consecutive years that I have been podcasting. So I want to thank the thousands of listeners, and I can say thousands of listeners. I can say worldwide audience. Thank you, France. Thank you, Germany, Australia, Canada. Now I'm just name dropping. How shameless. Very Deadpool-like. I'm breaking that fourth wall there. What do you think? But just very proud. I mean, we've had listeners from all over, and so many downloads and so much good feedback here on the podcast. And I really do appreciate everybody from the YouTube channel, from Twitter, from our geekhomeworld.libsyn.com website, everybody who's interacted with us over time and the people that will in the future. I hope you really gained some value, some insight into just the geeky, fun things that we like to talk about here. And so we've got a lot of plans and a lot of good things coming up. And as we work up to our 100th episode and as we go past that, hopefully. And I'm always humbled and I'm always thankful for the opportunity to interact with the audience here, with there and everyone who are geeks just like I am, and you enjoy things like this that we talk about. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for the interaction. And now at the recording of this episode here, you would think that I went to see Solo, a Star Wars story, and I hope to see it this weekend. There's a lot of serious stuff going on personally, so family issues and different things that I'm dealing with. I've got 48-hour film festival coming up that I'm going to be working on, so I'll be doing that again this year. So hopefully I'll win another award, or get nominated again, I should say. But I'm excited for that. Being a sound mixer, always looking for new and interesting projects to do. And I want to thank all those people that have worked with me and all those people that continue to inspire me, my fellow colleagues and all that. So I really enjoy that. I've got a new endeavor that I'm getting even closer to that I'll announce here very soon. And it's a very exciting thing. And there's a lot of exciting things coming up. So I just can't really say anything just yet, but I'm so excited for what's coming. And I hope you'll enjoy the journey with us here on Geek Homeworld on the podcast here. So I know I said check out the YouTube channel. It is growing. It is a work under construction kind of thing, and put some gaming videos up there, some different things, trying to put a little variety in the YouTube channel, and hopefully I will be putting more content on there. It's been a little difficult this last month. There's been a lot going on. Most of the time I couldn't podcast because I saw Avengers Infinity War 5 times, and I don't know if I'll see it again, but 5's a good number. So I loved it that much. That was such a great movie. One of the best movies of the year, definitely from a geek point of view. Avengers Infinity War. I can't say enough about the wonderful ensemble performances of that movie. So if you're not one of the $600 million plus box office that it's garnered so far, or the almost $2 billion worldwide, which is incredible. It's amazing. That's just, if you hadn't seen it, it's still in theaters and you still should check it out. Heck, Black Panther's still doing well, but it's about come to its end of its reign at the box office. And as we head into this holiday weekend coming up as the recording of this, we've got Han Solo opening over the holiday weekend here. Solo, the Star Wars story, as I was saying. And I hope to see it this weekend and give you a review, whether it's spoiler or spoiler-free, I'm not sure. We'll see, but want to hear what your thoughts are on it. I know there's some backlash online, some hardcore people that were burned in their eyes by, not in their eyes, but not literally, but they felt betrayed by how The Last Jedi went down, and it left a bad taste in some Star Wars fans' mouth, so to speak. And I was a little torn on it. It took me 3 watchings of The Last Jedi before I could come to terms with the death of Luke Skywalker and how Snoke just was defeated so easily. And there's so many things I could say about The Last Jedi, but I have faith that J.J. Abrams is going to end the entire Skywalker saga with Episode 9 next year. I really think he's going to bring it all back home. He's going to tie up a lot of loose ends, and I think we'll get the proper send-off. Of course, Han's dead. Princess Leia needs to... Honestly, they didn't kill her off, but something needs to happen. It's going to have to be off-screen. I don't want someone else to portray Carrie Fisher. No one can replace Carrie Fisher, so I don't want them to go there with CGI or any wonderful technology to bring back Princess Leia. I think that is a big mistake. Please don't do that, Disney. Please don't. They're just going to have to find a way, or just, I don't know. I don't know how we wrap that up with Princess Leia, but we have the Han Solo movie, and it was just announced, I think today, I saw online, that there is confirmed, and things can always change, but confirmed a Boba Fett movie. And that's something I think a lot of hardcore Star Wars fans, going way back, we want to know why Boba Fett, not Jango Fett, because we saw in the prequels about Jango, but we want to know why Boba Fett became such a badass that he is, and one of the greatest bounty hunters ever in the galaxy, in the Star Wars galaxy there. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition and see how everybody reacts to Boba Fett, a Star Wars story, or whatever it's going to be called. So that is something to look forward to, a Boba Fett movie. So very excited on that part. Now, I'm thinking about Solo. It looks interesting. I've really, honestly, after The Last Jedi and Solo, I do want to see a Han Solo movie, but the first preview was okay. The last preview I saw made me like it more. So I think it's still Star Wars, and I'm a little burned down a little bit on some of these movies, but I think I'm going to like, there's going to be things I'm going to like about Solo. So when I see it, I will be able to give you a good recommendation or tell you to stay away. I really don't think that they're going to mess it up. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Disney would take such a gamble on this movie, but there were early reports that they were already considering it a write-off, that they were going to lose money on Solo, and I know lately there's been a lot of promotion on it, but at first it didn't seem like much because I didn't think they had much to work with. And then when they brought Ron Howard in, I thought that was an interesting choice. And so Ron Howard may be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat for this one and save Solo. So I hope that that's going to be good. Obviously, in the last several weeks, Childish Gambino, better known as Donald Glover, he came out with This Is America, which was this cultural phenomenal hit and very catchy and very much looking at what's going on in America and with race relations and guns. And we're not going to get into that discussion here. Obviously, that's not really in the realm of what we talk about here on the podcast here at Geek Homeworld. But my point is having his star rising well, and he did a wonderful job on Saturday Night Live. If you hadn't seen that episode, it was pretty good with Donald Glover. And so his like alter ego is Childish Gambino, and he did this song, This Is America, and you all know about it, so I don't need to go over to really rehash it, but a very, very vital song, very important song, probably one of the most important songs of the year. And with that higher profile of that, we're also, I think it's going to help Solo. I don't think it's going to really turn anybody off. I think if anything, it's going to endear people more to his portrayal of Lando Calrissian. Now, I hope Lando is portrayed well. Obviously, Chewbacca, they're not really going to screw up Chewbacca's character. I don't really think that there's really much to screw up on that. I think Chewbacca is Chewbacca. We just accept that he is. And it would be nice to be able to see some of Chewbacca's backstory. So that would be wonderful. It looks like some of the battles here, it looks really good visually and all that, the Solo movie. And I'm just excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see how it plays, if it's, got a good rhythm to the story, if it pans out the way I want it to. I'm really going in with very lowered expectations for Solo. So I'm not trying to be overwhelmed by it. I want to be surprised. I want to come out of the theater saying, man, I've got to go see this again, and I've got to see it several more times. So whether I see it with my movie pass or not, I'm still going to see the movie. It's Star Wars. It's like pizza. I've said that before. It's like Star Wars is like cold pizza, and it's been said before. Even when it's bad, it's good. So Star Wars is Star Wars. I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan. I always will be. I can even appreciate things about the prequels that some people don't, including Jar Jar, but not so much Jar Jar. But I do have some misgivings about the movie. I'm not going to say that any of them are perfect and Oscar worthy, but parts of them are parts of the originals, but obviously visuals, the soundtrack on pretty much all of them by John Williams, you really can't go wrong there. Even some of the Star Wars stories, I liked Rogue. I almost call it Rogue Nation. That's Mission Impossible, which, by the way, I'm looking forward to the new Mission Impossible movie, Fallout. I think it's going to be intense. I'm getting tired of seeing the same previews, so I either need some new previews before July when it comes out, or they just need to get that movie out before I stop caring and feel like I've seen everything in the trailer. So I hope the trailer doesn't give everything away, but I think it's going to be a great, fun movie for the summer, Mission Impossible Fallout. But with Solo, there are so many opportunities to get it wrong. I just really hope that they listen to the fans, the hardcore fans, the true fans, not the fly by the day, fly by the night. Oh, it's Star Wars, let's go see it. I want them to be objective about the creators of Solo, and I really hope that they've taken their time and their effort to get a solid story, a good script here that we can get behind without some of the things that Rian Johnson did with Last Jedi. Now, I will tell you this, Rian Johnson, I'm not ragging on him. I thought he did a very good movie. The Last Jedi was a solid movie, but I don't think it was what the fans wanted. And in defense of Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi, I think that his take on it was very fresh. You know, he added some elements to it that we hadn't seen in Star Wars, and he did a different take. It was not predictable. And you like Rey's parents, who were they going to be? Such speculation, and then we find out they're basically nobodies. And then anybody can be a Jedi. Well, that's a great universal message, but I think we needed more stuff that was closer to canon for The Last Jedi. Thank you. But I don't know. I don't want to rag on Rian Johnson too much. I mean, people have gone off on him about the movie, and I still enjoy the movie. I'll watch it. Did I buy it? No. I'm not really into collecting them anymore. I kind of watch my stuff digitally, you know. I'll download it or whatever, or watch it on Netflix or whatever it comes to. I'll probably end up getting the Disney streaming service when it comes out, because Disney's it owns Marvel. They own, Star Wars. Don't they own Jurassic Park franchise, which that's coming up? I'm not sure. But I'm looking forward to Jurassic World, even though I kind of think it's the third Jurassic Park movie, if you think about it. But I'm sure it's more than that. I like Chris Pratt, so I'm excited to see the movie. We may have an episode or so leading up to Jurassic World. I want to get together with Richard, and when we can get our schedules together, get them aligned so we can talk some Jurassic Park, Jurassic World stuff. That could be fun. So we're trying to work on setting that up before the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So excited to see that still. There's a lot coming this summer and into the fall. We get into some of the interesting movies of the year. The ones that aren't necessarily blockbusters, but are still good quality films. So I'm excited to see what is coming out. And I've got a list of movies that I intend to see. Some geeky, but some not so geeky, but just interesting, different. A movie like A Quiet Place, that was one of the best movies of 2018. And it's probably like the Get Out of this year in a way, being that it's original in that way, and it's really done really wonderful at the box office because, it's a good solid movie. We get a lot of reboots. I hate reboots. I think I'm rebooted away. I think all of us are tired of reboots. We're tired of origin stories. We're of the same character or characters. I think we want to see some new, fresh, different ideas, and if they spawn franchise, that's wonderful, as long as it's good quality, it's story driven. You can have the best effects, the best sound, the best everything, but if your script is kind of weak, if your story isn't there, then everything else doesn't really matter as much. It does matter, don't get me wrong. Being a sound mixer, I can tell you how important sound is in a film. It's 50-60% of the film. It's as important as your visual, the sound is. And that being said, you don't want to have a movie where it's just a weak story. So, we really got to have those interesting scripts. I love really interesting, unusual takes on things, twist things a little bit. Even though I think when I say twist things, I'm thinking about Star Trek Into Darkness. Totally flipped the script there and actually made Khan, played wonderfully by Benedict Cumberbatch, a wonderful villain, but not Khan. But they flipped the script and totally justified the villain in that film. So kind of like if you look at Black Panther, Killmonger was pretty much like Khan was in Star Trek Into Darkness, because in Black Panther, Killmonger basically changed our hero, and T'Challa really kind of followed up on what Killmonger was trying to do all along, even though, he pretty much fought him to the death. And you really felt for Killmonger. He wasn't a horrible, evil man. He did bad things, but when you understand what he was doing, look at Thanos. If you look at his motivation for what he was doing, he's not wrong, but the way he went about, well, the way Thanos went about achieving his plan and bringing it to fruition, basically wiping out half the universe, is wrong. It's not, it's like genocide. It's not right. Okay, it's wrong. But you do see, I don't want to say a human side because he's not human, but you see those human-like qualities in Thanos, and you actually, Josh Brolin does a wonderful job of showing those emotions and showing, as strong as Thanos is, it shows his motivations, and his motivations were kind of noble. I mean, he was thinking he was right, like Spider-Man in Civil War when he met and was kind of fighting against Captain America, and he says, Mr. Stark says, you think you're right, and that makes you dangerous. And I thought of that, and that's kind of true, with Thanos. And he is dangerous. He's very, especially with the Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones, which he eventually got and snapped his fingers. For me, though, I loved in the Infinity War, not to get off on a tangent, but I love Thor with Stormbreaker. What a wonderful redemptive curve to fill out the Ragnarok movie into Infinity War for Chris Hemsworth's Thor. I think he did a wonderful job, and Stormbreaker was awesome. So awesome. It was pretty cool. That was one of the best moments where he's like, bring me Thanos. And he just lights up the sky. And that's our Norse god there. That's Thor doing his Norse-like godly things that he does. And, summoning the lightning and the storm and all that good fun stuff. So, yeah, very exciting there. So, I don't want to talk too much about Infinity War because everybody's probably like, I'm done with Infinity War. But it was such a great movie, and it's really, really a fun movie. I saw it in different formats and loved it in from IMAX to 3D to 2D. And I really enjoyed Infinity War. It's definitely one of my top Marvel films. It's up there with Black Panther, Civil War, Iron Man. The first Iron Man is hard to top. I mean, just the initial, that was a big bang, the initial big bang of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Robert Downey Jr., spectacular still in that role. He's only gotten better with time, and there are other movies in there that I enjoyed in the MCU, and that's definitely one of them. Thor's up there. I enjoy Thor. Ragnarok was a lot of fun, and having the Hulk in there certainly made it better. Captain America Civil War, Winter Soldier was one of my favorite standouts. Captain America has just had some solid films. Now, a lot of people aren't big on the first Avenger, but it was necessary. I think it was the necessary storytelling, that needed to be there, and it introduced the Tesseract and one of the Infinity Stones and Loki, and, well, Thor did also, but it was just very interesting. Well, it didn't, yeah. So, Hydra gets into a lot of things. Now, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of ignored the Thanos threat in a way. I haven't religiously watched that show in years. I just kind of got burned out on it. I think the time they canceled Agent Carter was when I kind of lost interest in it. And not to say it's not a good show, and I need to go back and binge watch it, but I just have a problem with Coulson existing in this. I don't know where they exist in the timeline, and they've kind of said they're not really crossing over to the movies, but yet they mention the movies. They reference when things happened in the Thor movies. It affected stuff that S.H.I.E.L.D. was doing that, Coulson and his team would do. And I realized kind of jokingly watching all this episode that Coulson's not a good leader, because every plan they have always something goes wrong. I mean, always something goes wrong. Just when you think they're winning, they'll get 90% of the way, and then boom, the bottom falls out. And it just makes for good TV. And I know episodic television like that, you have to spread out storylines. They have to be more concise, coherent, and it has to all make sense. And I get that. And sometimes you have to stretch things out over several episodes to get a good story arc versus, a 2.5 hour movie where you could just cover the whole thing. So I'm not hating on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I almost feel like whether it gets another season or not, I've lost interest in it, to be honest with you. And I wish I hadn't, because there's more distractions. There's more on TV and Netflix and all that I'm watching that has probably taken the place of watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, if they somehow tell us that that's some kind of like pocket dimension or something weird, or, maybe that could explain it away a little bit, but basically I'm thinking that, and there are theories out there, that Coulson is somehow going to come back to life in Infinity War, whatever the next Infinity, Marvel's Avengers 4, whatever you want to call it, whatever the title's going to be when that comes out next year. Maybe they'll bring Coulson back to life. That would be nice, Maybe Thanos undoing some of the finger snap thing will bring back people like Coulson, which would be awesome to bring him back into the movies. And then they could wrap up the series if they wanted to and just have Coulson. And if they want to bring some of the Inhumans in, I know they were planning on doing an Inhumans movie, but after pretty much the series just was DOA pretty much. And I thought it was just not good. Some people enjoyed it, but I really didn't. And I just kind of wish they'd wrap up the whole thing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and bring it into, or bring parts of it into the MCU to the big screen. Let's get Coulson back on the big screen. Have him come back and rally the Avengers. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Marvel's Avengers still is one of my favorite superhero movies, if not favorite superhero movie of all time. I know Infinity War is up there. Black Panther is almost perfect. But for the initial, and Iron Man, like I said, the original Iron Man was just very good. And I know that's saying a lot, but the initial feeling you get, like probably the first time you saw Matrix, you were just blown away, and it's just really burned into our skulls what Matrix is. I kind of liked Matrix Reloaded, the second one, and of course I did not like Matrix Revolutions. Basically, Neo just gave in to the machines and gave up, and I'm like, really, that's the payoff we get? But I don't know. So for me, Avengers, Infinity War. And I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but why not? I feel like it. So, but I was going back and watching some of it again, and just the initial feeling of bringing that team of unlikely heroes together, and they actually fighting the Chitauri and fighting Loki. And Loki, Tom Hiddleston, wasn't supposed to make it through all these movies, and him dying in Infinity War. I think for real, this time he's dead. There has to be some casualties, and other than Quicksilver, who is in and out in the Flash, no pun intended, seeing that death, so they're not afraid to kill off some characters, but that's been the thing. DC's better at killing off villains and characters, and now we're going to see some of that. Like, thankfully, we didn't go completely by the comics in Civil War and kill off Steve Rogers. He got to come back as Nomad, and they didn't really call him Nomad. He was still calling him Cap in Infinity War, but he's basically the Nomad character at this point. He's given up the mantle of Captain America. It means something different after the Civil War. It doesn't mean what Steve always believed that it meant. So being Captain America isn't as important. He's found a different way to serve, to do well for his fellow man, fellow women out there, for everyone, and to uphold justice in a good, positive, proper way. So good for him. He's been that rock. He's been that conscience throughout the Avengers. He's been very much the one you look to, bury his feet in the sand and say, no further. This is, where I draw the line, and what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And even when it flies in the face of Tony was dealing with in the government and all that, and the Sokovia Accords, when you look at Age of Ultron and you look at Civil War especially, and you see there are legitimate arguments on both sides of the coin for that one. But seeing Steve Rogers just stand his ground is a good thing, because you don't always see that these days. And seeing a hero that's willing to do that, willing to go that extra step, and to really believe in what he believes and not changing his beliefs. His beliefs have evolved. He's not as innocent a character as he was, obviously, and the world has changed, so he's had to adapt to that, but he's still not changed who he is at heart. And that's what's admirable about Steve Rogers, about Captain America. Whether he's Captain America or Nomad or whatever he is at this point, he's still basically the same person at his core. So good for him. So anyway, this may sound like rambling, but it's all important. It's all important to me, and hopefully to you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Geek Homeworld. Please let us know your comments on Twitter at Geek Homeworld. I'm your host, Ed, aka Savagetechman. You can check me out on Twitter. You can also check us out at Geek Homeworld. Let us know your thoughts. Check out our YouTube page. Don't judge us too harshly. I'm still working on it, trying to figure it out. Maybe we'll do some more video on there, and we'll see. And you can follow our blogs when we blog about certain things on Blogspot, geekhomeworld.blogspot.com. That's over there on Blogger. And we're on Google+. We're everywhere. So we're the Geek Homeworld, and we thank you for listening, and thank you for your support of the podcast and just being a part of it and being interactive. Community means everything to us. So this is Ed, aka Savagetechman, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. Savagetechman, Ed here, saying thank you, and go out and see Deadpool 2, okay? And let us know what you think about Solo, okay? We'll have more to come on future episodes. So thanks for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, Savagetechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+. Follow and interact with us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.